Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Serra. Let's dive in. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Women in B2B Marketing. I'm so excited to have our guest today. I've been wanting to get her for 2 years now since I launched, but scheduling is very difficult. But Sydney Sloan, the CMO of Drata and 3-time CMO, I'm sure everybody knows her name, and she is the GOAT of B2B marketing, if I do say so. Welcome to the show, Sydney. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you. I've been wanting. I think it's your schedule.
I'm so glad that the schedule's aligned.
I'm so happy for you, and congratulations on all your success to see how you've come.
Thank you.
And we could talk about our, when we met. But yeah, awesome.
I'm going to jump into that now. I'm going to go out of my usual starting. And so Sydney is part of the reason why this show exists, everybody. So 2 years ago in 2022, we had a group together. We met through Women in Revenue. If you don't know of this organization, join it. It's free to be a member and high value, as you will hear. But I attended a mentorship workshop with Sydney. She was leading it, of course. And there were like 5 or so other amazing women in marketing and revenue roles. And the workshop was on building your personal brand. And Sydney helped each of us walk through what is our personal brand, create that story for ourselves and fine tune the language. And most importantly, just inspired us to get out there and get started. And since at least 2 of us have started a podcast, shout out to Michelle Kim and Breaking the Tech Ceiling. Check out that podcast too. And I think several of us have switched roles since then, and every one of us has built out our personal brand. So huge bows and thank you to you, Sydney, for starting all of that.
One of my favorite, all my cohorts are favorite. I try to do it once or twice a year. So I think maybe once a year, because it's actually not just one day, it's 3-part workshop. So it does take quite a bit of time. Yeah, it's been great. And I need to do another one this year because I think I get as much satisfaction out of it. But just to highlight the time to create your statement. What do you want to be known as? Like, how do you want to reflect that? And then how do you go build that? It's so important. And I think even we're going to touch on this, knowing what you stand for and what you want to speak about if your goal is to elevate your brand in social, and the impacts of that make you more marketable and make you more in demand when you're looking for your next role, and help build your network, which is so important. I'm sure, Jane, after your last couple of years, like now you have such a broader network of people you can count on that have been on your podcast. And we know it's not easier these days to find a new job. So what can you do to give yourself an unfair advantage or a fair advantage because you're working at it?
Yeah. It's so true. And if anybody can take this workshop, if you do host another one in the near future or anytime in the future, I would love to take it again because I feel like it's something you should revisit, right?
Maybe you can then do it. So I can train you to then also do it. And so we both do it.
That's Sydney, create a school, the Sydney School of Personal Branding. Yes, I could be one of your teachers. I'd be proud to do that.
Totally would certify you on that for sure.
I love it. But so we will get more into personal branding and the job hunt because we both have a lot to share on that. But to take a step back, 3-time CMO, for everybody listening, you are definitely someone whose career we aspire to have something similar to ourselves. So if you can walk us through how you got started in B2B marketing and your path to CMO, that would be so helpful.
Absolutely. So I actually got started in events. I have I have a business degree from USC, and I did the entrepreneur program, and I wrote my business plan on an event planning company. So that's what I wanted to do. And I was already doing events as an intern at Nestle. And then I was working at this place called Special Events Magazine. And that's the path I thought I was going to go on. And one of my roommates from college went to a tech company, and this is back in the 90s. And I was like, hey, we need an events person. And so I interviewed and I was hired, and that's how I got into tech. And so I started back in that decade events was one of the primary ways to generate demand. That these trade shows,
Yeah.
there was no internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So digital wasn't a thing. And so that's where I started. And I think the advantage it gave me was when you're running a customer conference, when you're working trade shows, you get to know the customers. You get comfortable demoing the product. You talk to salespeople because you're hanging out with them. And so I got this advanced lesson in really being comfortable. I didn't just do the event, I actually worked it. And
Yeah.
I had this awesome boss, Andrew Jackson is his name, who encouraged me to get into product marketing. And I was working for a company that got acquired into Adobe, and I did a long stint in product marketing there, like 10 plus years across different facets of the business. So developer marketing, enterprise, vertical, and switched to a bunch of different product lines. So really honed my skills in product marketing. And then when I left Adobe, I went and I started doing customer marketing in SaaS because I believed that it was the movement of SaaS. This is like 2012. And that for companies, they needed to work as hard keeping and growing customers as they did acquiring them. So it was a big shift in the mindset of what it was to do marketing and customer marketing. And I had an NRR number way back then. We talked about customer engagement, customer satisfaction. And it was from there, then I got my first CMO role. So fun fact, I was never a VP. How about that?
Wow.
I went from a senior director to a CMO. And,
Cool.
and the advice that I think one of the reasons why was my first job, and I talk about this, I share this advice with people. If you can, in your first CMO role, go to an industry you already know. Because then you're not learning the industry and the role. You come in with market knowledge, which is what I believe a CMO is, a chief market officer, not a marketing officer. And that makes you more strategic. And so if you understand the market, know the market, then you'll be able to have the point of view on where your company fits in the market, how you should represent yourself, the partnerships you should align to, and know the voice of the customer, know the analyst. You're already coming in as an expert in the market. And then you get to practice, or you get to work on being an executive, which I think is the next thing about being a CMO is you're an executive first, you're part of the leadership team and understanding how to be an executive while running the function of marketing. And so that's the path, that's the learnings. I've had great coaches along the way. We can unpack that. And I started my first job was at a company called Alfresco in the document management space. I had an awesome boss. And then the advice that I got for the second time, and this could be in any role, right? If you're going from a VP role to a VP role, the second time, once you get the job, the second job, really be mindful about the company you pick, because now it defines your ability to go work at winning companies. And so not just go for the role, but go for the company. And so that's where I built more of my brand was at SalesLoft. And I researched all different kinds of segments. And then I was like, yeah, the sales tech thing, I think something's going to go there. And I love being a marketer in a sales landscape because I'm going to learn more too.
Yeah.
And so that's why I picked SalesLoft. I talked to Outreach. I talked to Clary. They were all hiring CMOs at that time. And I just went for the company that I felt was the best fit for my personal growth and development. Probably over the financial gains. If I looked at it only from a financial perspective, I might have picked a different company. But hey, SalesLoft has had the exit so far, so worked out with it too. And then, and now I'm on my third at Drata. And we could talk about the journey. This Drata was just this one unique company in our current time that's growing insanely fast and disrupting and creating a new market. And that's fun as a CMO to be part of. So I picked here.
You've touched on so many things that I want to double click on from here. This is amazing. Such a great journey. And I love that you called out being mindful about the company you pick. And I think that's even before you get to the CMO role, that's such a good reminder to people. I don't think I'm the only one who's my career so far, I feel has been what opportunities have come to me and made me excited. And I just take it. Like I follow that path versus carving out your own path and thinking strategically about what you want your story to be and what do you want next? Like having a successful exit. Do you believe in this company and this industry? Does this make sense for you? So taking the time to really gut check that and create your own journey. I love that you did that in selecting SalesLoft.
Yeah, I have to be passionate about the problem I'm solving and I have to like the customer I'm selling to. So that's why
Mm,
I don't go like deep tech. Like I've done developer marketing and it's not natural to me. So it's harder. And so if it's something that I understand, I align to, I get excited about, then it's like the secret weapon of passion can kick in. And I can talk to marketers about MarTech all day long. I still have
yeah.
most of the conversations in CMO or marketing groups are around pipeline and SDRs. And I could talk about all day long and never get tired of it. And so that I think any career, any advice is if you find something you love doing, then it's not work. And so really when you're thinking about the company, make sure it fits your personal passion if you can. I know times are tough these days, but and then it becomes the work is fun.
Yeah.
So plus who you work with and all the other aspects. But yeah.
Yes. And how important? So to me, you're the perfect blend of let the work speak for itself and building out a personal brand. Like you have both working for you. How do you think both of those come together to as we're growing in our marketing careers, the listeners?
What do you mean by the work speak for itself? It sounds awesome, but
So,
what does that mean?
so your performance, just the roles
Mm,
that you've held and the performance of those companies during your time there,
yeah.
it speaks volumes to how great you are as a marketing leader. So it
I
already
mean, I
speaks for
think it
itself
goes
there.
to, yeah, how the due diligence that you do in picking the company and then again, the story, right? Like even in some companies have been more successful than others, but like what did you do when you were at the company? So Alfresco had an exit. We were acquired by PE though, but we did turn the company around. And so there was a story
Yeah.
that worked where we went from a developer oriented go to market to a CIO oriented go to market with AWS. It was a great story and recast a category. That's how I talk about that particular
Yeah.
time. And so I think you can always find highlights. And when you're like writing your team's marketing plan, like what impact is this going to make on the business? And how are we pushing it forward? And maybe that's where you mean the work speaks for itself is because I'm always trying to contribute. What I love about Drata right now is marketing. We're doing our part on demand gen. We're hitting our pipeline goals. We're getting more efficient in the way that we do it. I know that's going to be part of the story I tell about Drata is it's a rocket ship and it's amazing. We were able to come in and even contribute more to pipeline and do it more efficiently and move to a persona based approach versus a product based approach. I think it's just a lot of experience and also leaning on the network. I enjoy spending time with my peers. I'm not afraid to call and ask for help, which is why I also offer it so often. And
Yeah.
so if I'm in a situation where I'm not sure, I have 3 people to call and get their advice and opinion, people I respect. And so don't be afraid to, when you're using your network, to tap. People want to help too. Like I could tell you, like, so many people have helped me in my journey, and I hopefully have helped others along the way as well. I believe in giving back and as you get. I think that's been a part of the secret of my success too, is I try to hire really well and I love my network and I use it.
Yes. So smart. And that's also how you built your personal brand, giving back and working with your network in a dual capacity, right? Like
Yeah.
sharing with them and also getting back.
Yeah. I have an interesting story there for you, Jane. I was at Adobe for 17 years. That's a long time. And so I had worked really hard getting to know people inside Adobe. And that was one of the things that helped me is I knew how to get things done because I knew so many people. And I would do that by working with salespeople in region, going and spending a week on sales calls. I did every single
Yeah.
new hire training for the 17 years I was there. So I knew every rep coming in. That helped in building my ability to execute, get input, work with the sales teams, build credibility. And I had to learn over time how to do that with other departments. I could talk about failings for sure, like how I did things wrong there and learn from it.
Yeah.
But when I left, my network was all inside Adobe. And so I had to really think about, and I was conscious about it, where I even asked my CEO, I said, I'd like to do some external work and speak at conferences and do that so I can build up my brand. Are you okay with that? And he was super supportive. So I got in, I started doing a lot with Serious Decisions at the time. They're now Forrester
Yeah.
and working with them and joining advisory boards and just the advice there. And I know we're going to talk about advisory in your questions. just putting yourself out there. So I went to Marketo and said, I think you could be serving my customer segment better. How can I help?
Yeah.
And they put me on the advisory board. I was like, great, this is amazing. And guess what? I met 10 amazing people on the, Tracy Eiler. That's how I met Tracy Eiler, who's one of the co-founders of Women in Revenue. We were on the Marketo advisory board together. So yeah, I know it all starts there. That was a while ago. And making sure it's cool because it is your extra time, but it does take some company time. But the payback to that is then I had access to, if something was not working for Marketo, I could just call the head of Ted Purcell. I could just call the head and get it fixed. So there's an advantage to that too, that was worth the effort.
This is huge. So building your network, where do you recommend people get started? This goes back to building your personal brand. It's hand in hand with building your network. But where do you get started with this for anybody who hasn't yet, who just is in this Adobe situation, right? Where maybe they built their brand within their current company, but nothing outside or external.
Very tactical, but totally works. Don't be afraid. Go on LinkedIn, look at people that you like, that you would want to be like, that you would want to network with. Start following them, start commenting on their post, and then DM them and say, hey, I just love to talk to you about your story, your brand, how you just go. And this is part of the session, right? It was like, connect with people. They will respond. Maybe you have to reach out to 10 to get 2, but it's still 2. And talk to them. And then they become part of your network. And then you ask them, what do they do? How do they get involved? What groups are they part of? And then there's plenty of groups out there. Pavilion is amazing and easy to get involved in. Chief, if you're on the senior side, some things cost money, some don't. Women in Revenue is free, but there's plenty of groups out there. Sales Assembly, I could name so many. And so I think once you start paying attention to who are some of the kind of influencers, the groups they follow, join one. You don't have to join all 5. I would start with joining one first and getting to know that group and putting your outside of hours time and effort into it and see if it fits. And the first one may not fit, but that's okay. There's 15 more. So if it doesn't feel like, hey, these are not my people, or I didn't get as much value out of that as I had wanted to, maybe try another one and see how that goes. I guarantee there's a group out there, and it could be regional specific too. Some branches of certain groups are stronger in certain cities than others. So you'll figure it out. And that's where I would start.
Do you recommend when people, because I love this advice, and after taking this workshop with you, I definitely started just participating more in the comments of LinkedIn, which also helps with the algorithm for your own content, folks. But getting involved, do you recommend before reaching out to people to ask for advice and create those relationships, commenting and getting involved on what they post before you do the cold outreach?
It's not that I wouldn't respond to somebody if they ask, but it's more likely that I would if we have a shared connection, or if I reckon, and we give that advice even when you're selling to somebody, first start following them to understand what they are, then comment, then direct message or send an email. I do think that works better because then your communication is more relevant because you're learning more about them before you do that. Or just troll their content and really learn a little bit more about them, why it is that you like what they're doing, what they talk about, watch a couple of podcasts if they do podcasts. And so your interaction with them is relevant because it's their time too. It's a bummer when I offer my time to somebody who's not prepared. I just had a meeting on Friday, a woman, same thing, mutual connection. She'd been following me, liked my content. Thank you. Had a mutual connection that set the introduction, and she just wanted advice. She was so prepared. I will spend another hour with her. She had her questions. It was really fruitful. And I think that's with any mentoring session is be prepared, have thoughtful questions with the person that you're asking their time of.
Yes. I love this because I never thought of it like this before, but it's very similar. It's like being an SDR for your own networking growth and personal brand, right? Self SDRing. And you're right. For cold outreach, when SDRs reach out to us on LinkedIn and DM us and they just want to blank cold connect, or Jane, love your content. We have lots of mutual friends. Let's connect. That's not getting very far, right? Even if you connect, you're waiting for the hard pitch coming next.
Yeah.
But with networking, unfollow. But it's the same thing when you reach out. I know some people reach out cold and they're like, hey, I would love to grab coffee sometime. Here's my Calendly. If I get those, I'm confused because there's no context, right? What I love to chat with people, but it would be helpful if I knew what you wanted to chat about. Is this going to be a pitch? What do you want to talk about? Giving context and a reason, like, and coming prepared.
Yeah.
So even before the call and on the call, knowing what you want to discuss with that person and having a goal.
I remember this woman, Victoria Jennings, shout out Vic. And I mentored her for a while. She was an SDR manager at Sales Loft. And she thought she wanted to be a CRO. That was her personal goal. So she asked if I'd mentor her. I said yes. And so like I have a couple different templates, easy to super complex that I've used. Okay, let's put your plan together. Like, what is your goal? Like your career goal in a statement? What's your short, medium, and long term? And she thought she wanted to be a CRO. So it's like, great, go talk to some. She's like, I'm like, yeah, I'll introduce you to this one. You find two more through your network. And she did the homework. And she realized, that this path or that path, so many times people think that there's only one path, but if you talk to three different people, there's multiple paths to leadership. And so it really helped inform her of what she could do, where she could invest, and it built her network. And so you'd be surprised. I think you just have to try that people will give you time. And especially I think if they're public on LinkedIn, I think that persona is more open to it. And otherwise they wouldn't be putting themselves out there, I think.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. And provide some context. So you want to, I'm looking to be a CRO one day. Would love to chat about your path to your current role. Boom. Exactly. Yes. I'd love to have coffee with you.
Yeah. And if you have a mutual connection, that's even better if you can find, but you have to build your network first. So it may not always happen.
Yeah. And like you said, the reminder of if you ask 10, maybe you get those 2 and not to focus on the 8 that didn't respond. People are busy, DMs and inboxes. And
once you
get
the 2, and if it goes well, they will introduce you. So that just starts the beginning of the path.
I feel like one theme through every time I talk to anybody is ask and put yourself out there, right? Raise your hand, put yourself out there, connect with somebody, talk to them. So yes, get out there, get started.
Another easier one is if you attend a conference, go talk to the speaker after. If you liked what they had to say, follow them during the session, make a comment, give them a shout out. And then afterwards, go talk to them. Like stand in line and wait. If there's something that you want to meet, you will be surprised. And then the next time you DM them, you'll be like, oh my gosh, we met at this event and you talked about this and I came up afterwards. Like you've made that connection to that person. If you're going to a dinner, a networking event, if there's someone that you want to meet, walk up and meet them, put your bag next to theirs, do it. Make sure it's worth your time and effort to meet those people. I do it when I even still go to dinners. I'm looking around the room like, who do I want to get to know here? It's so easy sometimes to sit next to the people you already know. But if they send the list ahead of time and I haven't met that person yet and I really want to, I'll go up to them. And I know it's feel like an extrovert, but still even uncomfortable for us extroverts, just so you know.
Yeah.
Go up to them and be like, oh my gosh, I noticed you were here. I would love to get to know you. Should we sit together?
Yeah.
And then you get to know people.
I love that.
So it takes effort. It can be uncomfortable, but I think that's why people go. So realize they're there for the same reason you are.
Yes. And everybody's human, right? So I love that you're saying this because I feel like this is a one-to-one and you're coaching me right now because I need to get better at this. So 2 quick stories. One, I suck at going up to people at events, especially speakers. I get starstruck. It's so funny. In the B2B space, I swear there are celebrities. And I feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm like, who am I to go up to this person and just be like, I like your talk. And I freeze, even though I have feedback on what they were discussing or comments or questions, right? It goes blank. If I go up to the person, I'm like, so I need to work on that and just going up and remembering everybody's human. Yeah, exactly. What do I want to say that's actually worth this person's time after their chat?
Even saying, here's what I loved about your presentation. This is what I learned. And ideally, you do have the follow-up question after. Yeah. It just reminded me, I know Mark Roberge. Mark is amazing. If people don't know, run Stage 2 Capital. He used to be the CRO at HubSpot. He puts out insane content. So I invited him to speak at one of our events. I sat next to him at the speaker dinner, got to know him well. And still, he was at SaaStr. And I made the point of going to a session and walking up, and I stood in line, waited for my turn to say hi to him. Just keeping those personal connections going. And it was great. It's just that continuous investment in your network.
Yes.
And I'm grateful because I know if I need something, like I could call him and he would pick up the phone.
Yeah. And building out that
like starstruck. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's huge. And follow-up story, vulnerable, is so from the beginning when I was in your workshop and we talked about me starting this show, you very generously were like, I'm happy to be a guest as soon as you get this started. So you put yourself like out there, starstruck, of course, because you are one of the stars of B2B marketing in this world, right? You and Latney, I had both of you in the very beginning say you would be on the show and I freeze. I'm like, I'm not ready. Like I need to practice first before I have these stars on my show. So that's
okay. That's a good point for people, right?
Yeah.
You're training in, you know how you want that's fine, but don't not invite us. Like she's amazing too. Like another person that just is very generous with her time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And just a reminder for everyone, like everyone has these thoughts and these fears and we get in our own way, but just do it and put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Have Sydney Sloan on your podcast if she has the time. And when she volunteers, take her up on it and follow through. But yeah.
The worst they can say is no.
Exactly.
The worst they could say is no or not right now. And that's okay. Like people are busy, but oh shoot, I have a good thing for that. You'll never know if you don't ask or something like that.
Yes. And you got to be in it to win it.
There's the reward.
Like the lottery, right?
Yeah. You don't buy a ticket, not going to win.
Exactly. So put yourself out there. Speaking of, you were touching on this too. Like you are an investor, an advisor, you're on boards. Getting into that space, again, is probably asking the question and building your network. But curious if you have any tips on people who are at the point in their career where they want to start getting into these additional roles outside of their full time.
Yeah. So I think my first advisory was head of product of the company I was at. I had some friends that were starting a company and would I be willing to talk to them? I'm like, sure. And then they asked me to be an advisor and I was. It's follows actually. And a long time. I think if there's a product you really and you like working in, you can reach out to the CEO and be like, I love your product. I'm obsessed with Goldcast, by the way. My team will laugh. And we don't yet use it. And I keep on saying, like, we have to get it.
Yeah.
And I love the Goldcast team. And what my advice would be, and I'm not an advisor there, but I worked with them, but just an offer, right? And I know you can start out as like a champion, a case study. Do you have an advisory board? I'd love to be part of it. And so find those connections where your expertise is valued, where you have points of view about the market or the product. And sometimes I think two people also can look at getting on boards in their community. So it doesn't always have to be professional. It could be a board in your community just to start getting out there and understanding what board roles are. And so that's how I started. And then actually Mark Roberge was the one I talked to that was like, hey, I'm doing these advisory things. I'm not getting paid. What should I do? And he's, oh yeah, you should totally be doing that. And so they, on Stage 2 Capital, they actually have a couple articles that talk about how to structure your advisory agreement. And then from a founder, like what to expect from advisory. And so I started saying, I would love to be an advisor. Here's how I structure. And it's based on time and the value of my time and what percentage that would be in terms of equity. And make sure that your time is valuable. And so that the step, so I did it for free at first. And then I was like, hey, like, how about that equity thing? And that started happening. And then I just got my first like real board role. And it was from a friend of mine, who's the CEO at a company. Yeah. So Go Forms, I joined their board in February. So now I'm an official board member. I go to board meetings and I get to see what it's like to be a board member, which is different than presenting to board as an executive. And so it's really helping my learning. I've also been part of a venture capital firm as an advisor. I was working with Craig Rosenberg at scale. And so I got to see inside the VC world. I worked up to it. This did not happen overnight. I said I wanted to be on a board back in 2015. It took me 9 years. And I've interviewed for board roles and gone on a program called Athena, which like helps women prepare for boards and, got to know some folks. And even when people were doing cold outreach to me for roles, I'd say, I'm not looking for an operator role, but hey, if you have board roles, I'd be interested. And people say it always just takes the first one. You have to get the first one.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. Just be patient. Yeah. But I'm grateful.
Yes. Love that. And so it's in phases, right? So you
it's
see building your network.
the equity advisory, like just advise or offer to support, be on cabs. And then you can move into equity advisor roles and then also hopefully get into a board role if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. That's a good phased approach, like knowing where to start. And it does seem to all come back to network.
Yeah. The board ones tend to go to, and having experience with boards helps.
Yeah. Yeah. And having gone through exits or achieved what that brand is looking to achieve.
I have a board. Athena helped with this. I have a board resume. I have a board story. My story for a board role is very different than my operator role. And so it's like, what would you bring to the table? And that is different. Like demand gen tactics or like that, not as interesting for the board. How to acquire, how to identify M&As, how to do that. Like those things are a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So interesting. And this brings us back. We were chatting a little bit. We started to talk about the job seeking environment and that right now, which this is reminding me, awesome that you can have, I never even thought of having different resumes or a different story to tell, but obvious. It's like marketing 101. Who is your audience and change the message to who that audience is and who you're speaking to. So I've
had people use ChatGPT to say, here's the role I'm applying for. Here's my resume. Please update my resume to match and then edit from there.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think there's a product now too. I know this from Brianna Doe, who she's just awesome, but she recommends Teal that does that for you. So it basically automates and personalizes your resume for a specific application. I haven't checked it out myself yet, but gonna check that out and check
AL?
TEAL. Yep.
Okay.
Teal resume. But so the market right now for candidates, I am currently seeking a new full-time VP marketing position. Hopefully by the time this is published, I am no longer, but it's crazy out there right now. Last year was even worse. And 2024, it seems to be getting better, but the candidates out there, you have a lot of competition. Everything is it's very difficult. I know you were looking for a CMO role that fit what you were looking for. So if you could tell us advice for all of us job seekers, what we should and should not do in addition to tailoring a resume for each role.
Yeah. I wrote a post about it. It's actually my most successful LinkedIn post ever. I think it's like a million views. So go to my LinkedIn and read because I put the 10 steps of learning and called Know Your Worth. I think I pinned it to my profile and it took me 8 months and I've always been able to but it just didn't. And I was shooting for my next step. So I was like, I want to go to a bigger company. I want to expand my leadership experience. And I would get to the finish line with these companies and I wouldn't get the job. I'd be like, okay, what do I learn? I believe in fate. So everything happens for a reason. What can I take from key learnings and like get re-energized to keep going? And that happened twice where I got to the finish line. And there were bigger companies, $500 million company, $300 million company. So I'd never been a CMO at that level before. So when I saw who they hired, I'd be like, look at that. They just hired someone that had just done exactly that. So my realization and what I've talked to others about since then is yes. And we were even talking about that. You're likely going to have to do your role over again. People aren't willing to take the risks that they used to take. And so they're looking for been there, done that, proven talent.
Yes.
And I even, with the people I'm hiring right now, I'm like, I want to find somebody that's taken a company up to 200 million before, seen that scale. And maybe it's not the same exact role. Maybe if I'm looking for a senior director, I can take a director that's been at that and do that, but has had the responsibility. So I think just setting your expectations, that's what people are looking to hire talent that has been there, done that. That's the market right now. The other key learning or piece of advice is do your homework. Make sure, especially your first interview with the hiring manager, that you come with a point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So not only, hey, I reviewed your website, I did this, come with a point of view. Like what would be the things that where you would start to investigate, how you might think you could make an impact, have really thoughtful questions, be prepared. So you stand out from somebody that's maybe just like seeking to learn. So I would say, have a point of view and use your network, right? To get you can't just apply online. You have to get your resume in front of the person. And so you really need to figure out how to triangulate, go direct. Like I get people that will reach out to me or DM me, like I just applied. Guess what? that makes me look at their resume, not the 400 resumes that are sitting in greenhouse of people that just applied online.
Exactly.
So you have to take that extra step to get your resume seen. And if that's through a referral, that's great. Or getting it directly to the person. The last thing is know your worth. That was the point of the thing. And that's to be okay to walk away. That's okay to make sure it's a fit for you, right? You are the buyer. Don't be always in seller mode. Make sure the fit is the right fit for what you want and what is right for you. And I know that can be difficult if you're in a financial situation. So in that case, sometimes I recommend do the trial run. If you're not sure and they want you, say, how about I come in and I'll do a 3-month engagement. I know I don't want to shout out this person, but I've also was coaching a person last year and she did that. She was like, I wasn't really sure. So she offered to be the interim and then took the role permanently. When she was there for 3 months, I was like, yeah, no, this actually does fit. But it also gives the chance to see if it's right or not. So don't feel forced to have to accept the full-time job if they're willing to do a trial run.
So smart, because I was just talking to a coach of mine, Barbara Palmer, shout out to her, who blew my mind with that advice of it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go straight into full time. If you're unsure about this opportunity and it for a few reasons, but you're excited for a few other reasons, do a 90-day trial and test it out for both sides, like try it on.
Yeah.
My mind is just so this, you get a full time, you stay at the full time, like it's just black and white and the world is gray now. Yes, there's options. So to keep in mind. So a few things there. This is amazing job seeker advice. I love your reminder of be the buyer, not always the seller, because it's so hard when you know that there's these amazing candidates that you're up against to always be in seller mode and forget completely to think, do I even want to work at this company? Do I like this company? Does the product excite me? Does the market excite me? Like you said, like going into think chief market officer, like you need to be excited about the market that you are marketing to. So just a healthy reminder.
I have a template too that I use. And I learned it in one of my previous companies called the FIT framework, and it's got 6 Ps to it, but there's like the purpose. Write out what your purpose is and then make sure does the purpose of the company, which could be their mission statement, match what you want. I can't remember all the Ps off the top of my head, but the passion is another one. Is my motivated ability a match for the role that they're asking me to take? Yeah. There's also like other things. And so I wrote down my questions and then make sure I get those answered. I also have financial questions that I'd also shared on LinkedIn. So you can see like how I evaluated against the financial performance, but I'm a pretty strong personality. Will that be welcomed or off-putting? And that question I would ask is, are you open to new ideas? Do you always have to be right? I asked a CEO that one time and he answered in a way that was like, ooh, we're not going to be a good fit. So make sure that you're asking the right questions to ensure that fit is there and that it matches what you are looking for in your role, and just double check. And when I've had misses, I've gone back and I'm like, oh, I didn't really check that. I didn't check that box. I didn't ask that question and I should have. And so as I go, how do I refine those questions? And interestingly, they've changed. And I've used them before where I've chosen to stay. Sometimes being tempted to leave, like I'd go through a round of interviews and I'd put my current job in that same framework and I'd be like, wow, like I need to stay. Like this is still the place for me. And then I make a recommitment to the company for 6 months or 12 months. I've worked with people like that do that regularly. Does this still feel right? Am I still excited? Am I continuing to build my experience, career? What story am I telling? You can go back and check that as get tempting inbound, or are you, if you're just setting your goals for the next year, like refresh those questions.
Yes. I feel like you have all the templates and frameworks that are like so many. I love that you get organized in that way and can help yourself and check back on this. I need to channel more type A myself and get that in. To wrap up, because I want a whole Sydney course and we have you back and go over deep dive into so many of these topics because it's gold. But if you could go back when you were first starting out in marketing in your events world, what advice would you give yourself knowing everything that you know now and all your frameworks and templates that you have?
I would say 2 things. Keep your passion, that and your confidence that has taken you far. But the other would be, it took me a while to develop my emotional maturity. and intensity. So that passion was a sharp edged sword if I was trying to get something done and people were in the way. And I mentioned that time at Adobe where I had lessons learned. Like I was referred to, I got a 360 and someone called me a bull in a china shop. Like I was getting things done no matter what. And I've learned over time that that's not the way. And even though I can be a strong personality or voice in the room, like I enjoy now, like sitting back and listening and speaking when it's the right time, like being mindful of reading the room. And even with Zoom, like I can like watch people's emotional connection and consider that. That could be some maturity too. It's learned. I was coached on it, on how to body language, how to read people, communication style, learning to be more open in the way that you communicate, sitting, all these things. I had an awesome coach during that period of my life that taught me executive presence. And so I don't know if that's advice I could have given myself. Probably like just be more mindful of other people as you're barreling through on your way.
Yeah.
But she
and
did
your
okay.
presence.
She did okay.
Yeah.
She learned.
Like, don't you're going to do great. Do you? But that's good. Be your authentic self, but you can do that without chipping away at yourself and negatively impacting other people, or just be more aware of other people and still stay authentic.
Yeah. That's and I'm really glad that like vulnerability became okay in the workplace because it wasn't back then. So you just had to button it up. And I felt like I had to go to battle.
Yeah.
And now as a leader, I get to take the shield off and make it okay for other people. So hopefully
like psychological safety.
Yeah.
The fact that's a term that's discussed at work now is
100%.
Just huge. Agree. Yeah. Sydney, thank you so much for coming and sharing your time and your wisdom and your experience. Yes. I will get better at following up when I'm starstruck.
I will come back. I will come back.
Thank you. And let me know whenever you have another workshop because I am there.
Okay. I will. I'll reach out to Women in Revenue and then I'll see if you can be a trainee on it.
Oh,
and then I'll give you all the templates and then you can do it too.
Love it. I'm so in. Yes. Perfect. I will be anything that you need to carry your message out.
I will happily do that. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening. If you like the show, I'm sure you love this episode. Sydney, if you like the show, share with a friend, rate us, write a review. It helps us get in front of more women in B2B marketing. So thanks, folks. Have a great day.